As a pastor, ministry leader, or church planter, you can feel the pull to always be there for people, meet with people, and do whatever people ask of you. And while there are good intentions behind that, there are also a lot of negative things that go with it. And so today on Practical Church Planting, we're going to give you 4 reasons why you should meet with people on your time.
Welcome back to Practical Church Planting, where in 15 minutes or less, we'll give you practical tips, advice, and encouragement to help you plant and grow healthy churches. My name is Brian Androsi, and joining me is Dylan Dodson. And today we're talking about 4 reasons to meet with people not on their time, but on your time.
Yes. So there's this tendency, and
That sounds mean.
It does sound mean, but we're going to tell you why this is a good idea.
Right.
There's a tendency in ministry, if you're on staff, if you're a pastor, especially if you're planning a church, to meet with anybody at any time because it's like you need people to join your church, you want people to tell you about your church.
Yep.
So let me say this exception. If you have not launched yet, generally speaking, you should do that. You're not writing a sermon every week. Whenever you can meet with somebody, do it. Once you launch, even if your church is relatively small, I want to give you 4 reasons why you should start making people meet around your schedule and not theirs. It sounds, again, it might sound mean, but it's actually for your benefit and actually for the benefit of your church. So this is something I told you before we started.
Yeah.
It took me about 18 months until we were into New City, even though we were relatively smaller, to actually start doing it. It has made a world of difference in my life and in my schedule and for the church. And so here are 4 reasons why. Number 1, it's not the best use of your time.
Oh,
so
also sounds mean. This is a mean podcast.
This is, but it's just hear us out. It's not the best use of your time to meet with people whenever it is best for them. The reason being is that you can't, and we'll talk about this more, like you don't know what your own schedule is. You're constantly waiting on them. It's kind of like, if you're having notification on your phone, and whenever someone calls you, you stop what you're doing and answer the phone. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it, but generally speaking, like if you're working on a project, you want to answer your phone, right? Because you're in the zone. It's not the best use of your time.
Yeah.
It's just not the best use of your specific time to whenever somebody wants to meet with you and wherever they want to meet. It takes time driving. If you're working on something, you got to stop. I would just say I have found in my desire to try to be helpful to other people, it wasn't the best use of my time. And as the pastor of a church, like you want to do what's best for the church. And so sometimes it may stink to tell somebody no, or let me try something else. Or maybe you even feel bad giving people specific times, which we'll talk about as well. It's actually better for your own schedule and for what you're doing and for how you plan out your day to not just do what everybody else wants, but to actually have some structure to what you're doing.
So you're not saying that meeting with people is not the best use of your
Correct.
time, but you're saying that meeting with them just kind of whenever.
Right.
Okay. That's less mean.
Yeah, and always letting them, make the suggestion.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. Here's the number 2, that it takes a lot longer to find times.
Yes.
We've all been there. Hey,
Yes.
can you meet? Sure. Can you meet? Yeah. I'll meet whenever's ready. And so it's just like when there's too many options, nobody knows what to do. Yeah. So what I have started to do, and I was even telling you before we started, not just in like people at the church, but even, with my leadership podcasts and getting people who are, not big, but like are busy.
Yeah.
I'll actually send them times, and almost every single time, if they can do the podcast, 90% of the time, they will pick something that I offered because people just people don't know what's going on. They feel bad trying to interrupt your schedule. You feel bad interrupting their schedule. If you could just say, hey, I'd love to meet, if someone reaches out to you or you reach out to them and say, here's when, 3 options. You'll almost always find something. And if not, at least you know where you can work on, and you can give them 3 more. But it's just the back and forth of like, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know what you think. It just takes forever.
Yeah.
And it's just.
Yeah, I feel like it's so easy to get in like a nice off, maybe we can call it. Have you ever seen the episode of The Office where like they're trying to out compliment or out like do favors for each other? That's kind of what it's like, where it's like you don't want to suggest time because you don't want to like intrude on their time or make them choose something around your schedule, and they don't want to do the same, so you're just kind of in this thing where no one really wants to say anything.
Like if you're at a 4-way stop and you get there first, but you're trying to be nice, so you stop and you wait for that person, so you wave them, but then they stop and then they wave you, and it's just like
then like you both start inching together.
And, right, and you feel bad just like going, but if you had just gone, everybody would have got through faster. Now, I know that's only takes like 10 seconds, but that's really what it's like. That if you want to save everybody's time and know what you're doing, offer some times because it's just a lot quicker to set something up.
Yeah, and offering some times is not a rude thing. Like it'd be different if you said like, this is the only time I'm available, which sometimes maybe you do have to do that. But giving a few different options takes away that like, oh, I got to work around your schedule. Right. But it's here's options where we can do something. Yeah.
So number 2, it takes a lot longer to find times if you don't ask people to meet when you're available.
Yeah.
Number 3, people will actually respect your time more. Again, I think we kind of feel bad saying, no, I'm only available to meet at these times, and this is what works best for me. But however, you'll actually find that people are like, oh, like they actually have stuff going on. Like,
Yeah.
I know it's kind of a joke, and I joke like this, but no one has ever really said, well, other than a couple people. Most people don't really think this. Like, for whatever reason, people always think I'm busy all the time.
Yeah.
But actually saying, no, here's when I'm available, it shows people like, oh, like he's not just sitting around all day. Like, he actually has stuff to do. And it not only does it make people respect your time, but I think that it makes them respect you more. And not in like an arrogant way, or not in like a, look what I've got going on. But they'll say, okay, here's when they're available. They'll also like maybe be more concise or to the point when you are meeting, because you're not just willy-nilly all the time. But it makes people respect your time better. And if you're a church planner, you probably have a lot going on. Like, you don't just want to drive from place to place and do thing to thing. Obviously, people are important, but you can't spend 8 hours a day every day just talking to somebody.
Yep.
If you've launched, you've got other things going on. And so people will respect your time if you actually give them options, as opposed to saying, whatever works for you.
And honestly, like, if you're in leadership, obviously, and someone's contacting you, to just say like, yeah, I can just meet whenever. To me, it comes across as like, I don't have anything important to do. Or, yeah, this church stuff is just, I can just do whatever on my time. Where I'm thinking like, obviously I'm supporting this church and I'm here. I would think you would take this seriously, but it's coming across like you don't.
Yeah. So works on. And then number 4, and this is really the biggest one of all of them, and it kind of puts it all together, is that it's easier to schedule your time when you have already set in your schedule, these are the times that I'm going to meet with people, and these are the times that I aren't. So, for example, for me right now, and this changes based on other stuff, but for me right now, I can generally be available for Wednesday for lunch or Wednesday afternoon, or Thursday for lunch or Thursday afternoon. I don't meet in the mornings because it's my most creative time.
Yeah.
Or if I have to, Mondays for lunch. So it's kind of pretty much Wednesday afternoon and Thursday afternoon and Mondays for lunch. That's it. And so whenever I want to meet with somebody or someone wants to meet with me, here's what I tell them. Yep. Here's why this is better. Tuesdays, I get to work uninterrupted on sermon writing, blog writing, like creative stuff, and I don't have to worry about it. Mondays, typically in the morning we have staff, and Monday afternoon we record this podcast and I do some other things. But saying, here's when I know I'm available, it allows me to plan things out even a couple weeks in advance. And when someone comes to me with a request, I don't feel bad saying no, or I don't feel bad saying, here's when's best available for me, because I know what works best for my schedule. And again, if you're a church planner, preaching is one of the most, if not the most important thing you do.
Right.
And so you've got to find a time that's best for you. And so knowing when you're most creative, when you work the best, and planning to meet with people not at those times makes the rest of your week less stressful and better. Like, I know for me, for example, like meeting with people on a Thursday lunch and afternoon is the best because I am the most relaxed. Like, you don't really, I mean, it's fine, but like, you don't really, I don't want to say you don't want to meet with me on Monday or Tuesday, but it's just like, I'm one of those people that has to that just wants to get things done. And so I do better on a Wednesday or particularly Thursday. And so because I know that, again, I started doing this about 18 months in a new city. I felt bad originally, but now because I know my schedule and I know what works, people respect my time more. Not that they didn't. My time is better used and it's not wasted because here's what works best for me. And I found that it works really well. And again, the tendency can be, I'm a small church pastor, so I need to do whatever is best. I think when you're a bigger church pastor, people kind of assume that you're busy.
Yeah.
But if you just tell people, here's what works best for me, or here's when I'm available, they will respect that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has a different personality and has things kind of work different way for different people.
Right.
And I would say I'm probably more, I don't know if the word is rigid, maybe, than more people would like to be. But I think you have to have some structure in your schedule. And so to just kind of take the day as whatever comes. If someone calls me, I'll go meet with them. Right. It's going to be very hard to get things done. So I don't know. I've heard someone put it some way, and I don't remember how they put it. Something like rigidly flexible or flexibly rigid or something like that. But to have, even if you're someone who doesn't need to have every minute planned out, but to still have some structure to where if someone contacts you, maybe you can fit that in, but maybe that won't be today.
Right.
And that's an okay thing, because if you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants and just fitting things in wherever, it's going to be very hard to get anything done.
Knowing when you're available makes it, you're not just saying no, you're saying I can't do this time, but I know I can do these times.
Yeah, true.
And I felt bad originally telling people no, but because I could immediately tell them I'm available, and I have not yet, I mean, we're not a massive church, so, but I've not had one person yet be frustrated that I had to change the time.
Yeah.
Not once.
Normal life.
And instead, because I'm more productive and I know my schedule better, it's made my life much easier and less stressful because I know when I can read and when I can't. I've even had people, because Tuesdays, for now, is my big message writing day, that'll text me Tuesday morning, like, hey, can you meet today? And I'll tell them no.
Yep.
Now, if there was and obviously there's exceptions if there's like an emergency, but like, I you can kind of tell, and you could ask them what they need, you know, and I'd say, I'd love to meet. What do you need? And then knowing it's not a today thing, I'll say, I'm sorry, but here's when I'm available.
Yeah.
And again, people are like, okay, that makes sense. Like, you've got stuff going on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Actually asking people what the issue is or what they want to meet over, I think we don't want to do that, but that's not a bad thing. Because I heard one of the pastors we know say something about this recently, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but that if someone asks him something and it is like a legitimate, maybe literal or maybe not necessarily literal, but kind of like life or death situation, sure, I'll drop something. But if someone contacts me and says like, hey, I think the example he uses, you know, I need to talk to someone because I've been struggling with porn or something like that. It's like, well, that's a legitimate issue, and yes, we should talk about it, but you've been struggling with it for 2 years now. You can wait for 2 days. You know, stop, and we'll talk about it in 2 days.
And honestly, too, especially when it comes to maybe more high maintenance people, they're honestly the ones that typically don't respect your schedule anyway. So if you can tell them, no, I can only meet this times, it'll probably save you from, and I hope you know what I mean by high maintenance. I don't mean people in crisis or people, I mean people that are just like always complaining, whatever. Say, I'm sorry, these are the only times I'm available. And if they're not available, like, it also saves you time from giving people headaches. And one of the things with this, I recently read a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. It's a really good book. One of the things he talks about is that in our culture today, we often we say yes to things that we want to say no to because we feel bad, but then we dread the decision the entire time until it has to come to pass. Because in our culture, telling somebody no is like not a socially nice thing to do. So can somebody meet with you, or can you go speak here, or can you go do this? You say yes because you feel bad saying no, and the whole time you're leading up to, like, this is a waste of time, I'm dreading it. It's better to just say no early and then not dread it so much. And I think with this, it's better to say, hey, I can't meet right now, but I can meet these times, than like, oh, I had so much to do this week and I fit them in because this is what best was for them, and then you're miserable the whole time and you don't even want to be there. I think it's really helpful to do that.
Totally.
To be able to say no. And again, this is for the good of the church. This is not for the good of you. And learning to say no and setting your priorities is the best thing for your church. Now, there are exceptions to this. If there's somebody that I really want to meet with, and they're doing me a favor, and I just really want to meet with them, I'll meet with them whenever is best for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, there's been times, you know, on my leadership podcast, I got someone that I really wanted to talk to, and they said, I can only do this time. And it was like a Tuesday at like 1. I was like, I'm going to do that because I want to do that. And again, it sounds bad, but it just works better. But if it's not something that you're dying to go and meet with someone, to the best of your ability, if you can pick your schedule, say, these are the times that I'm available. If not, we'll find something else. You'll just find your life will be better.
Yeah, and I think you can be rigid's a terrible word. It's just the word that's coming to mind. But rigid about your schedule and still respecting others, to where if someone contacts you and does exactly what we're saying to you, saying, hey, I'd like to meet with you, I have these times available, maybe do what you can to work in those times. Obviously, if it's terrible times and you can't, then you can't. And the
ironic thing is, if somebody said, I have these times available, and they're not typically when I meet with people, I'm much more likely to pick one of those times because they've said, I can, you know, it saves the back and forth. Well, I can't do these days. Well, I can do this. I'm like, okay, I'll do this because it works for you. And so that's good all the way around. So don't feel bad. 4 reasons to meet with people on your time. It's better for you, and I would argue better for your church. At least that's been my experience. 4 reasons. It's not the best of your time to meet with people whenever. It takes a lot longer to find a time that works. People will respect your time, and it's easier. The biggest thing, it's easier to schedule your time and to stay sane if you have some, consistency there.
Yeah. And according to Dylan, always go first at a 4-way stop.
Yes, always go first at a 4-way stop. So thanks for being with us. If you do not know, Practical Church Planting on Facebook, we have a group that you can join. We have lots of fun talking about questions, church planting. If you have stuff you want to talk about, put it in there.
We sure do.
Or practicalplanting.com, where you can get all the show notes, practicalplanting.com/questions. You can ask a question that we'll talk about in a future episode. So thanks for being with us, and we'll be with you next time on Practical Church Planting. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Practical Church Planting. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or Practical Planting, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, make sure you like or subscribe or do whatever it's telling you to do or should do on that platform.
And hey, if you are so tired of looking at our ugly faces, but you're not tired of listening to our beautiful voices, then you can find our podcast if you just search Practical Church Planting on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure not to just find it, not just to listen, but to subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Brian, tell them to subscribe.
Subscribe.
See you next time.